Welcome to the Competency Assurance Program CPD Cycle Basics video. This short video will provide general guidance for pharmacy professionals when completing the 5 steps of the continuing professional development cycle. Before we begin, we acknowledge the land on which we live, work, and gather is Treaty 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10 territory, the traditional land of the Cree, Dakota, Lakota, Dene, Nakota, Saulteaux, and homeland of the Métis Nation. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to apply guidance for completing each step of the CPD cycle and identify where to find CPD resources and support tools. CPD cycles are intended to help tie learning directly into practice in a structured process. There are 5 steps to the cycle, which include assessing learning or practice needs, planning, learning, and goal setting, participating in learning, applying what was learned to practice, and evaluating the impact changes have had. These steps don't need to be done in order, and the process is intended to be flexible to individual circumstances and practice needs. The steps are carried out in an intentional and purposeful way, taking time to reflect on practice throughout. SCPP has created a CPD cycle tool. It is designed to help guide you through the 5 steps of the CPD cycle using prompting questions to help you reflect on your practice. It may be used to document your progress through a continuing professional development cycle. The tool can be found on the Competency Assurance Program web pages under Continuing Professional Development. Let's now go through each step of the CPD cycle in more detail. In the Assess step, reflect on your own individual practice and identify an area for improvement or a gap in your knowledge or practice. In this step, consider who might benefit from a change in your practice: yourself, your patients, your colleagues, or the healthcare system. When assessing your practice, make use of resources you have access to, from mandatory training you might have to do for work or as a license requirement, to reflecting on challenges you encountered during day-to-day practice, such as a difficult question or situation, feedback you may have received as part of a performance review, or more informal feedback received from patients, colleagues, or other healthcare professionals, exposure to new knowledge through a learning activity attended, or through self-reflection on your own individual practice using the NAPRA Standards of Practice or other resources. Consider what you want to learn and how it may benefit your practice. When deciding if a topic should be captured as a CPD cycle or as learning credits outside of a cycle, consider the following. Will you apply new knowledge or skills to improve or benefit your practice? If yes, then it may be a good topic for a CPD cycle. If an activity confirms existing knowledge, isn't relevant, or won't be applied to your day-to-day work to make changes or improvements, then capture as learning credits outside of a cycle. Learning completed in either case counts towards the CAP total annual learning credit requirement. After identifying an area for improvement within your practice, the next step of the CPD cycle is to make a plan, which will include setting SMART goals. Goals should be relevant and intended to improve practice. When planning your goal, consider what you will measure in order to track your progress. SCPP has created the SMART Goals Guide, which can be found on the CAP web pages and can be used for additional guidance when writing your SMART goal. Possible things to consider measuring may include confidence levels, interactions with patients, colleagues, students, or other healthcare professionals, interventions made, actionable recommendations, adaptations made to processes used, and other things within your practice. Consider how your measurements can meaningfully assess your progress. Goals that are based on measuring the amount of learning you will complete will be very difficult to apply to practice. It is recommended that you do not plan to measure time spent learning. This brings us to the Learn step of the CPD cycle, which incorporates the use of continuing education activities. Learning completed to help you achieve your goal can be accredited or non-accredited. A CPD cycle has no required minimum or maximum number of learning credits, and there is no limitation on the number of accredited or non-accredited activities that can be documented within this step. For each learning activity, include several specific and meaningful key points of what you learned. Include information that, if you were to look back on in a few months, would provide you with enough detail to be reminded of what you learned. The amount of learning you do will depend on your own learning needs. When documenting your learning credits, 1 learning credit is equal to 1 CEU for accredited activities and 1 hour of learning using non-accredited activities or resources. When recording non-accredited activities, break your documentation of the learning done into segments of up to 4 learning credits. Long-term or larger non-accredited activities will have multiple entries of up to 4 learning credits. The number of learning credits completed in the Learn step will count towards your total annual learning credit requirement. Some tips for the Learn step include: document your learning activities as you go. This will help ensure that you are able to accurately remember what you learned and when. Key learnings are not the same as learning objectives for an activity. Learning objectives outline the learning goals and expectations for a learner, whereas key learnings are specific points that you as the learner recognize are important and relevant to your practice. When you think you have completed enough learning, ask yourself if the knowledge gained will help you meet your goal. In the Apply step, you will document how you applied the knowledge gained from your learning to make real changes in your practice. Actions taken in practice may include implementing new knowledge, skills, or efficiencies, a change in your workflow or other processes used, a change in how you approach interactions with colleagues, other healthcare professionals, students, or patients, implementing or adjusting a policy or procedure, giving or facilitating an education presentation to others, or discussion with colleagues that lead to a new way of doing things. Remember that even small changes to your practice can be valuable. Some tips for the Apply step are to include a short description of actions taken in practice as you progress towards your goal. Keep track of your progress on a regular basis so you can accurately describe and remember them. This might be done by keeping a notebook with you during the day to jot things down, or having a Word document open that you can make your notes in. Find what works best for you and your individual practice and practice site. When considering how you have applied your knowledge or skills, look back to your SMART goal and remember what you set out to measure. And the timeline set out in your SMART goal will help you to determine how long you track and document the actions taken in practice. This brings us to the final step of the CPD cycle, evaluate. This is where you reflect on your actions taken in practice. Did you meet your goal? If yes, who or what was impacted by the changes or improvements you made? If your goal was not met, reflect on what you would do differently next time. Was your goal too broad, or did you encounter barriers that made it difficult to meet your goal? Whether your goal was met or not, your CPD cycle is useful and can be used to meet the CAP annual requirements. Consider what your next steps will be. Will you continue with the changes made to your practice? Will you start a new CPD cycle using this topic or a similar topic in the future? Consider what you included in the Assess step. Did you address the needs you identified? You can access a variety of information, support, and resources by visiting the Competency tab on the SCPP website. Valuable information, updates, and additional resources will be found here as they become available. If you have any feedback or questions about the program or CPD,